What's up, everyone? How's it going? Today, I've got a topic that's going to blow your minds and plunge us into a world full of mysteries and secrets from the heart of ancient Egypt. Get ready for a comprehensive exploration of one of the most important pyramids you might have heard about, but I'm telling you, what you're about to learn will make you see it with completely new eyes. Imagine this with me. Around 2400 BC, that's more than 4,000 years ago, there was a king named Unas, the very last ruler of the mighty 5th dynasty. This guy decided to build a pyramid for himself in an area called Saqqara, about 20 kilometers from the Harania-Saqqara road. The pyramid's ancient Egyptian name was Nefer-Sut Unas, which means the beautiful places of Unas. Talk about names that just make you happy. Here's the twist. Even though this pyramid is the smallest royal pyramid ever built in the Old Kingdom, not as massive as the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, its historical value, folks, is priceless. Why, you ask? Because this is where they uncovered one of the world's greatest secrets, something that'll make your hair stand on end. Now, this is where it gets real, people. The immense importance of the Pyramid of Unas isn't in its size. Nope, it's in the treasures hidden deep inside. In 1881, the brilliant archaeologist Gaston Maspero ventured into this pyramid, and what he found made him light up with joy. What was it? The pyramid texts. These aren't just any writings on a wall, folks. These are the oldest surviving collection of religious and funerary writings that have reached us from ancient Egypt. Imagine, they're like a treasure map, showing us how the pharaohs thought about the cosmos, their religious beliefs, and the king's journey after death to reach the afterlife. So it's not just a big pyramid, it's a house of wisdom, a secret library containing all the mysteries of life and death for the ancient Egyptians. This really shows how much royal thinking evolved during the 5th dynasty. Back then, kings focused on massive pyramids to display their divine power. But Unas? He had a bigger, deeper mind. He focused on inner strength, on the written word, magic, and rituals to secure eternal life for himself, not just a colossal structure. This was a reordering of priorities, shifting resources towards spiritual and intellectual focus. And this pyramid isn't alone. It's a complete complex. It includes a stunning causeway, a mortuary temple, and a valley temple. All of this is an archaeological treasure trove telling us about the architectural and religious artistry of the Old Kingdom. Pharaoh Unas, also pronounced Venus or Unas, was the last king of the 5th dynasty. How long did he rule? Historians disagree. Some say 15 years, others say 30. What's important is that he ruled in the mid-24th century BC. He came after King Djedkari Assesi, likely his father, and the succession was pretty smooth. But other historians like Manetho claimed that Unas's death marked the end of the 5th dynasty. His reign came during a slight economic decline, but that didn't stop the state from organizing massive expeditions for construction materials. Like what? Like those red granite columns 10.5 meters tall brought all the way from Aswan to Saqqara. Talk about dedication. Their trade was booming with the Levantine coast, Bible's Nubia. There are carvings showing large ships coming back from the Levantine with Syrian Canaanite people, and even a giraffe depiction pointing to trade with Nubia. Plus, military campaigns in southern Canaan against the Bedouins are depicted, though these might just be standard iconic representations rather than actual events. There are other carvings on Unas's causeway showing thin, emaciated people. For a long time, these were thought to be evidence of a famine during Unas's reign. But modern theories suggest they might actually represent desert nomads, aiming to show the king's generosity towards those in need. As we said, Unas was the last king of the 5th dynasty. He ruled in the mid-24th century BC. The exact length of his reign is a mystery in itself. The Turin Papyrus suggests 30 years, Manetho says 33. But it's odd that we haven't found many artifacts dating beyond his 8th regnal year. plus other evidence that led some Egyptologists to propose a shorter reign of 15 to 20 years. So why did we find depictions of said festivals, royal jubilees, in his mortuary temple? These celebrations were traditionally held after 30 years of rule. Maybe it was just symbolic representation. His reign occurred during a period of economic decline, yet the state was still powerful enough to organize massive expeditions to secure building materials. For example, gigantic red granite columns, 10.4 meters high, were transported from Aswan to Saqqara. Incredible work. Their trade routes were active with the Levantine coast, Byblos, and Nubia. Inscriptions show large seagoing ships returning from the Levant carrying Syrian Canaanite men, and even a depiction of a giraffe indicating trade with Nubia. There are also scenes of military campaigns in southern Canaan against the Shasu Bedouins, though these might be standard iconic features rather than actual events. Other inscriptions on Unas's causeway depict emaciated figures, previously interpreted as evidence of a famine during Unas's reign. Modern theories suggest these scenes largely represent desert dwellers, highlighting the king's generosity rather than widespread famine within Egypt. The 5th dynasty, circa 2435 to 2306 BC, saw significant transformations in royal architecture and religious ideology. After Userkaf, the first king to build his complex at Saqqara, subsequent kings chose the site of Abusir for their pyramids. What happened was that the layout of the royal pyramid complex became standardized, meaning they stopped experimenting like in the 4th dynasty. And more importantly, the resources allocated to pyramid building were significantly reduced compared to the massive structures of the 4th dynasty. A lot of money was redirected to sun temples dedicated to the god Ra, indicating his growing importance. Egyptologists infer that the kings of this era might have experienced a decline in their divine status compared to the 4th dynasty rulers. This led to a greater investment in Ra's temples and less in their own pyramid complexes. This is evident in the smaller size of 5th dynasty pyramids, which perhaps compensated by having elaborate interior decoration. The reduction in pyramid size and the redirection of resources toward sun temples during the 5th dynasty, along with the innovation of the pyramid texts in Unas's tomb, indicate a profound ideological shift in the concept of kingship. In earlier times, the king was viewed as an absolute, physically dominant god, as seen in the colossal 4th dynasty pyramids. Now, his role became more nuanced, increasingly linked to his relationship with the sun god Ra and his successful passage to the afterlife through rituals and textual magic. This meant a gradual decline in the absolute divine status of the king and the rise in power of the sun cult and the priests who managed these rituals and texts. This subtle shift in the center of power from individual royal grandeur to the broader religious framework contributed to the gradual weakening of central authority, laying the foundation for the later collapse of the Old Kingdom. The 5th dynasty also witnessed the first appearance of the pyramid texts, royal funerary inscriptions meant to guide the king's soul to the gods inscribed within their tombs. The historian Manetho claimed that the 5th dynasty ended with Unas's death, likely due to the absence of a surviving male heir. His potential son, Unas Ankh, probably died before him. This could have led to a succession crisis, perhaps hinted at by Tedi, the first pharaoh of the 6th dynasty, choosing the name Seheteptawi, who appeases or pacifies the two lands. Tedi's claim to the throne might have been legitimized by his marriage to Iput, who was likely Unas's daughter. But folks, archaeological evidence suggests no conscious break in administration or social structure between the 5th and 6th dynasties. Many officials simply continued in their positions. This means the distinction between these dynasties, as presented in later king lists, might be an artificial construct or reflect a change in the administrative center rather than a period of chaos. Unasa's funerary cult, established upon his death, continued until the end of the Old Kingdom and possibly revived in the Middle Kingdom, demonstrating continuous veneration despite dynastic shifts. The Pyramid of Unas is strategically located on the Saqqara Plateau, specifically in the southwest corner of Djoser's Step Pyramid complex. This particular location, its proximity to other ancient monuments, and the need for an exceptionally long causeway to reach a nearby lake all indicate that this site held special significance for Unas. The complex follows the typical design of Old Kingdom pyramid complexes: a main pyramid, a valley temple, a long causeway connecting the two, a mortuary temple adjacent to the east face of the pyramid, and a small subsidiary pyramid dedicated to the king's Ka, spiritual double, in the southeast corner. The entire complex was enclosed by a 7-meter-high perimeter wall. The original height of Unas's pyramid was 43 meters, with a square base measuring 57.5 by 57.5 meters. The pyramid's core was built in 6 steps using rough limestone blocks, which decreased in size with each step. Later, this core was encased with finely dressed white limestone blocks quarried from Tura, and some of this casing still remains in the lower courses. Although Unas's reign lasted about 30 to 33 years, his pyramid was the smallest built in the Old Kingdom. This suggests that resource constraints might have limited the project, rather than a lack of time. The subterranean chambers of the Pyramid of Unas were first discovered in 1881 by Gaston Maspero. The internal structure of the pyramid begins with a sloping passage leading to a hall, followed by a 14.10-meter horizontal corridor protected by 3 granite portcullises. This passage ends in an antechamber located directly beneath the pyramid's central axis. The burial chamber itself, west of the antechamber, measures approximately 7.3 meters by 3.08 meters and houses the king's sarcophagus. The ceilings of both the antechamber and the burial chamber were gabled, similar to earlier pyramids of that era. Unas's sarcophagus, made of greywack rather than basalt as initially believed, was found near the western wall of the burial chamber. The sarcophagus was intact, but its contents had been plundered. However, scattered mummy fragments were found, including the right arm, skull, and a leg bone, along with wooden handles from 2 knives used in the opening of the mouth ritual, a crucial ceremony performed to enable the deceased to speak, eat, and drink in the afterlife. The ceiling of the burial chamber was painted blue and studded with golden stars to resemble the night sky. The causeway of the Pyramid of Unas is one of the best preserved passages in Egypt. Why did they build such an exceptionally long causeway to reach a nearby lake? This again indicates that the location held special significance for Unas. The causeway connects the Valley Temple to the Mortuary Temple located on the east side of the pyramid. The walls of the causeway are a whole other story. They were lavishly decorated with colorful reliefs of a quality and variety that surpass typical royal iconography. These inscriptions depict various scenes: Egyptian seasons, processions from different Egyptian provinces, craftsmen at work, offering bearers, battle scenes, and even the transportation of massive granite columns. And then there's the famous scene of the emaciated people we talked about. It was once believed to document a famine, but now theories suggest it might represent desert nomads, intended to show the king's generosity. The pyramid texts, folks, are a collection of ancient Egyptian religious spells, hymns, and funerary incantations. Their purpose? To protect the deceased king or queen and ensure their eternal life in the afterlife. These texts were carved into the walls of the inner chambers of pyramids, and they are the oldest surviving collection of Egyptian religious and funerary writings available to modern scholars. As we mentioned, Unas's pyramid was the first to have these texts discovered in 1881 by the esteemed Gaston Maspero, making it the oldest known example.
The text in Unos's pyramid consists of 283 spells, and it's considered the smallest, oldest, and best preserved collection of religious writings from the Old Kingdom. Unos thereby initiated a grand tradition that was followed by many successors until the end of the Old Kingdom. The primary purpose of the pyramid texts was to aid the deceased pharaoh on their journey to the afterlife through instructional spells. These spells aim to guide the king through the underworld and help him overcome hostile forces, thereby enabling him to unite with the sun god Ra, his divine father, in the afterlife. By carving the texts directly onto the pyramid walls, the architects ensured that the king would benefit from their power even if his funerary cult ceased. The texts also include instructions for specific ritual procedures and words to be spoken, indicating that they were meticulously performed and recited during the king's cult in his mortuary temple. The precise arrangement and good preservation of the texts show that they were meant for Unos's soul, the Ba, to read as it ascended from the sarcophagus, surrounded by resurrection spells, protective charms, and ritual offerings. Then, this Ba leaves the burial chamber, which contains texts identifying the king with Osiris in the underworld, Duat, and moves to the antechamber, which symbolizes the Akhet, or horizon. One of the most peculiar additions in the antechamber spells is the cannibal hymn. This depicts the pharaoh flying into the sky through a stormy sky and devouring both gods and humans. This act was believed to allow the king to absorb the life force of the gods. After that, Unos's Ba faces east, towards the sunrise, and beyond the pyramid structure, towards the false door of the mortuary temple where funerary rituals were performed. Finally, turning left and passing through the pyramid's corridor, the Ba joins Ra in the sky. The pyramid texts also demonstrate the growing importance of the cult of Osiris alongside Ra in ancient Egyptian religion during Unos's reign. Both deities were considered crucial for accessing the afterlife. Ra was the source of life, and Osiris was the means through which the next life could be achieved.
These pyramid texts, folks, were the starting point for a vast textual tradition that continued throughout Egyptian history. These texts formed the basis for the coffin texts that emerged in the Middle Kingdom, which in turn formed the basis for the Book of the Dead in the New Kingdom. This shows how funerary beliefs continued and adapted with changes in society and the availability of writing media. The pivotal role of the pyramid texts in the shift from monumental pyramids to textual and ritual power represents a profound transformation in ancient Egyptian ideology. Instead of relying entirely on the physical size of the pyramid to ensure the king's immortality, the focus shifted to the magical power of the written word and specific rituals. This suggests that the ancient Egyptians, perhaps Unas himself, realized that size alone wasn't enough to guarantee eternal life, and that a complex interaction with the gods in the afterlife required deep knowledge and precise incantations. This development doesn't diminish the importance of the construction, rather it places the construction within a broader context as a vessel for these sacred texts, highlighting the increasing significance of religious knowledge and priesthood in achieving royal immortality.
The Pyramid of Unas, like many ancient Egyptian monuments, has been exposed to both natural and human factors of deterioration throughout the ages. Natural factors include the effects of wind, rain, and sun, which slowly erode and degrade materials. Additionally, the harsh desert climate contributes to continuous deterioration. As for human factors, these have been particularly destructive. The pyramid was used as a stone quarry for centuries, with its outer casing of fine white limestone removed to build the city of Cairo. This plundering left the pyramid in ruins, with only a small mound of rubble remaining. Daily visitors entering the pyramids, similar to what happens in the Great Pyramid of Giza, increase water vapor, carbon dioxide, and heat, causing condensation on the interior walls and the formation of damaging salt deposits. The pyramids of the 5th dynasty, including Unas's pyramid, were built with a lower quality than those of the 4th dynasty, making them more susceptible to destruction. Furthermore, 5th dynasty pyramids were systematically dismantled during the New Kingdom to reuse their materials for building new tombs. The long causeway of Unas's pyramid, which passed through older tombs, saw its superstructure demolished and leveled, though its decorations were preserved. The site was later used for numerous burials of officials from the 5th dynasty, private individuals from the 18th and 20th dynasties, and a group of later monuments known as the Persian tombs.
Despite the significant deterioration, the Pyramid of Unas has seen restoration efforts throughout history. King Ramesses II, one of the most prominent pharaohs of the New Kingdom, ordered the restoration of Unas's pyramid around 2000 BC, re-inscribing Unas's name on it. And Prince Khaemweset, son of Ramesses II, is known as the Prince of Egyptologists and the first Egyptologist in earnest. This is due to his efforts in preserving ancient monuments and temples and, more importantly, ensuring proper credit was given to those who built them. In the New Kingdom, many Old Kingdom structures had deteriorated, and Khaemweset took it upon himself to restore these buildings and monuments, making sure credit went to their rightful creators. Khaemweset carried out restoration work at Unas's pyramid complex, which can be attributed to the continued popular activity of Unas's cult as a local deity in Saqqara for many centuries after his death. He was incredibly popular. While the pyramid texts are undoubtedly the most prominent discovery in Unas's pyramid, the site has revealed many other archaeological finds that shed light on various aspects of ancient Egyptian life and funerary practices. When the burial chamber was discovered in 1881, Maspero found a sarcophagus and mummy remains inside. Although the sarcophagus was intact, its contents had been plundered. However, scattered mummy fragments were found: a right arm, a skull, and a leg bone, as well as wooden handles from 2 knives used in the opening of the mouth ritual. The decorative reliefs in Unas's funerary complex are of indescribable quality and variety. Additionally, 2 long boat pits were discovered, likely containing wooden boats, possibly solar barks for the sun god Ra. Furthermore, excavations revealed tombs dating back to the 2nd dynasty and the late period beneath the causeway.
Some unofficial sources, like the ICIDA project, propose a very strange theory known as the Matryoshka doll theory regarding the construction of Unas's pyramid. This theory claims that the pyramid we see today is merely a second phase of construction and that a third phase was completely destroyed, its remnants used in building the mortuary temple and surrounding structures. The theory postulates that the complete pyramid would have had a side length of 78.45 meters and a height of 52.5 meters. The evidence they present to support this theory is the presence of cavities, peripheral intersections, and fragments of casing within the pyramid's wall structure visible in the descending passage 3.389 meters from the pyramid's entrance. This suggests that the pyramid's body hides a first-phase pyramid within it, meaning 3 pyramids were nested within each other and 2 of them are still visible today. Official science interprets these building techniques as a result of multiple reconstruction processes in ancient times. However, the ICIDA project assumes that this method of pyramid construction was the implementation of a specific engineering design for specific purposes, aimed at achieving certain functions for the pyramid. They suggest that for pyramids to function correctly, several layers of finely polished casing were necessary, similar to a cake, and they cite the large number of structural and architectural elements as proof that the pyramids were built according to a fully developed, pre-planned project.
Egyptian pyramids, including Unas's pyramid, are surrounded by countless legends, myths, and folktales that have evolved over centuries, far surpassing historical facts. These narratives, often blending reality with imagination, reflect how people understood these colossal structures across cultures and times. Among the most famous of these legends are those transmitted by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC, who depicted pharaohs like Khufu as tyrannical rulers who forced their subjects into arduous slave labor to build the pyramids. Although modern archaeological evidence refutes this depiction, the idea of pyramids built by slaves has remained deeply entrenched in popular consciousness. In the late 1st century AD, the Jewish historian Josephus added another layer of myth, linking the construction of the pyramids to the suffering endured by the Hebrews during their years of labor in Egypt, despite the fact that the Great Pyramids were built thousands of years before the supposed period of the Hebrews' presence in Egypt. With the disappearance of hieroglyphic knowledge after the 4th century AD, the pyramids became enigmas, and the true knowledge of their builders was lost in a sea of myths. More bizarre tales began to emerge with the Coptic Christians' control of Egypt. One such legend speaks of King Surid, who ordered the construction of the pyramids to record sciences and store treasures and sculptures, placing an idol to guard each pyramid. It is said that Surid was buried in the eastern pyramid, Khufu's pyramid, his brother Hujaib in the western, Khafre's pyramid, and Hujaib's son Karurus in the middle pyramid, Menkare's pyramid. This story is linked to a dream King Surid had that the earth overturned and stars began to fall, which prompted him, fearing the end of the world, to build the pyramids to hide all the knowledge of his era. After the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century AD, the stories became even more imaginative. One popular Arab legend claimed that the Great Pyramid was the tomb of Hermes, the Greek counterpart of the Egyptian god Thoth, who built the pyramids to conceal literature and sciences from the uninitiated and preserve them from the flood. Yemeni Arabs also believe that the two Great Pyramids are the tombs of their ancient kings, one of whom defeated the Egyptians, perhaps a distant reminder of the Hyksos invasion in the 2nd millennium BC. The legends also included tales of hidden treasures inside the pyramids, which found their way into the Arabian Nights. In addition, there's the story of Caliph al-Mamun, son of Harun al-Rashid, who is said to have been the first to break into the Great Pyramid around 820 AD. Tales recount that he found a vessel with endless water, a golden box with a man's corpse studded with rubies, and a live rooster made of precious stones. These legends, which have grown over thousands of years, still influence popular belief and modern perceptions of the pyramids.
Folks, the Pyramid of Unas is an incredibly important archaeological treasure, not just because it's the last royal pyramid of the 5th dynasty, but also because it's a pivotal point in our understanding of the evolution of ancient Egyptian religion and royal thought. While its size is modest compared to its 4th dynasty predecessors, its housing of the pyramid texts represents a major shift in royal priorities, moving the focus from absolute physical grandeur to spiritual and textual power to ensure immortality. This shift reflects a decline in the king's absolute divine status and a rise in the role of the priesthood and sacred texts, implying a redistribution of power within the social and religious structure. Studying this pyramid and its complex shows us how capable the ancient Egyptian state was in organizing massive construction and trade projects, even during periods of economic decline. The inscriptions found in the causeway reveal aspects of daily life, foreign relations, and cultural perceptions of famine and royal generosity, offering us a deeper insight into society during that era. The continued funerary cult of Unas as a local deity in Saqqara for centuries after his death, and the restoration efforts undertaken by later princes like Hammurabi, all affirm the enduring legacy of this king and the importance of his pyramid and Egyptian cultural memory. In contrast, the myths and legends surrounding the pyramid, like the Matryoshka doll theory or tales of hidden treasures, illustrate how gaps in historical knowledge can be filled by popular narratives, highlighting the complex interaction between official records and informal cultural interpretations over time. Overall, the Pyramid of Unas offers a rich case study of architectural, ideological, and religious changes in ancient Egypt, and it remains an invaluable source for understanding the complexities of this ancient civilization. So, what do you guys think? Interesting topic or what? If you have any questions or want to know more about anything, I'm here. Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in a new video with a new secret from the pharaohs. Peace out.